let's get started here. This session is going to be about sales and marketing mentorship, and just on a side note, as I've gotten older and older, I've learned that in the golf business, the better you are at sales and marketing, I think the better you'll be and your club will be. So with that, let's get started. We'll introduce the panel. Why don't we start with Mr. Lohman? If you just a little background on yourself, who's been the biggest impact and mentor to you in sales and marketing role? There you can stay and focus on sales and marketing.
Wow, that's a good one to start with. I'd probably have to say, for me in my career, I'd give a lot of the credit to some of the folks. I can't really say one, but I'd have to give it to maybe a collection of gentlemen who I've had the privilege of working with and for with OB Sports. I remember when I got into the business out of college, I wasn't quite sure what I would do. I didn't know if I was going to go back to school, if I was going to try to play, which was really not going to be an option. Unfortunately, I'm not the Michael Block of the room. And then, whether I got into golf or I got into another business like some of my fraternity brothers and peers at UCLA. And I went and worked for a year for Patrick Casey at Monterey Country Club. Our family had been a member of that facility. We actually lived there for a little while, and I knew Patrick, and Patrick was gracious enough to allow me to come work for him, and he already had a lot of assistant pros and PGA members working for him, and Patrick said, come on in, I'll teach you the ropes. And I don't know if anybody here knows Patrick as well as I do from working for him and interacting with him over the last 10 years or so from the board. And, I learned a ton from Patrick, although I'm not going to give him credit in this moment. Love Patrick. But I learned a little bit that it wasn't always every situation, and that situation wasn't exactly for me. And that type of interaction at the semi-private kind of equity world, lots of members, lots of requests, very busy, just seemed kind of a little different style for me. But I give most of the credit to Orrin Vincent, and this afternoon, Odie Vincent will be here, his son, to come speak to us about his life. But Orrin, at that point, owned, and he still is owner of OB Sports, and we were family friends. My brother had played golf for Odie, and Odie's from the desert, and I'm from the desert, and we're from the desert. And I knew that Orrin was well known and had this cool company, and I said, maybe I could get a couple minutes with Orrin and talk to him about my career path and what he does and what OB Sports does, and just give it a shot. And at that point, I'd actually gone up and visited my brother and met with a couple of headhunters, and I was going to get out of the business. It was not to say that I didn't like the business or want to be in the business, but my experience wasn't as such to motivate me to keep me going. And fortunately for me, I got to spend some time with Orrin. And if you haven't met Orrin, I don't know if anybody in the room has spent time with Orrin. He's super gregarious and emotional and passionate, and just spending time with him, you get the feeling that he cares and loves about the game, his people, his company, the type of person that you'd want to work for. And that's pretty neat when the chairman of the company or the owner kind of resonates that type of passion. And then from there, he offered me an opportunity to go work for OB Sports. I was 23, just out of college, and he said, Eric, if you really want to be worth anything, you're going to have to learn some things, right? And he didn't really give me much credit for my golf, and he didn't give me much credit for my degree, which he shouldn't have really. And he said, come work for us. We'll teach you the ropes, but we need you to do some different things. So my first responsibility was to go up at the reserve in Portland, Oregon, where he gave me a position on his turf care, his maintenance crew. And so I spent 11 months pretty much doing what this gentleman over here is doing. And I know Brandon's going to get up and go tell him to stop here in the next couple of minutes. But our superintendent's already there on the phone making it happen. But it's nice to see that these guys are working so passionately on their job this morning as well. But I would give, and I'm not going to take the whole mic today, but Orrin Vincent.
Is this just your intro?
Yes, sorry.
Another question?
Let me get going.
Brief bio?
But I would say that one person I could credit for being in the industry would be Orrin Vincent. Without that interaction, without me meeting with Orrin, it would have been really difficult for me probably to either stay in it or come back to it.
We're thankful for Orrin. I can't imagine the golf business in Southern California without Mr. Eric Lohman in it, that's for sure. Next, we'll move over to Mr. Robin Shelton. And just so everyone knows, Robin Shelton has a sales and marketing emergency at the club here in a few minutes. So he's going to have to step away here in a moment. But Robin, if you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna have an awkward moment where I gotta step off the stage and get on a little emergency conference call here. But to be shorter than Mr. Lohman is my goal here. I don't know that I can pin, or at least my background. I'm sorry, I work for the general manager at Seacliff Country Club, Huntington Beach, and then I'm also regional manager for American Golf. As far as my background in the sales and marketing, where my influences come from, I can't pinpoint it to just one person. And it's funny, as Eric started talking and I'm sitting next to Scott Hine and hearing some of the stories today, I was reminded of when John McNair was talking about his lunch with Bob Husband. And there was a time in my career that I got laid off and I had a lot of spare time, and I did some of that. I had lunch with people, I had coffee with people, and Scott Hine actually was kind enough to host me at his club at Black Gold back in the day, and he talked to me about being the sales leader of your facility. And I thought that was such a revolutionary idea at the time about, hey, if you're the GM, you've got to be the sales leader. And so I can't pinpoint to any one person, but I can pinpoint it to moments and philosophies in my career of being able to talk to people and maybe listening to them for an hour and taking one nugget away from them, or spending a whole day and just having a nugget, an idea, a concept. And so for me, it's what can I take from somebody, what can I listen from someone, or what can I rip off from someone? What idea can I use, can steal, or make it somehow better? So not one influence or one person, but I'd say multiple people, multiple interactions, multiple industries for me.
Thank you, Robin. You can exit stage right there. Mike, we know each other a long time. Done a lot of business together over the years in different facets. Why don't you give a little background on yourself and what you do to need. As Eric puts this together, that was a unique idea to have the technology side of things come into this panel as well, because it's changing more and more, and especially on the public side, some things you've done that has touched us all.
Thank you, John. Thanks, Eric. It's great to be here. I have a long story to tell. I'll be up front and tell you that it's going to take a little bit of time, and hopefully over the time it'll come out and you'll get to know me better. Like John, I am the son of a PGA golf professional. And to say that golf has given me everything in my life would be an understatement. It would be accurate, but an understatement. I grew up the son, grandson, nephew, and brother of PGA golf professionals. So, like John, I was parking carts, picking up the range as soon as I could look over the steering wheel, right? And I was vacuuming the golf shop as soon as I could operate the vacuum cleaner. And I was learning to bet and play golf on the golf course as soon as I could walk 18 holes, right? It's a phenomenal life. I played competitively through college. I lettered 2 years at a D1 school. I won a national championship as a junior college golfer. Coached a national championship golf team at Arizona State, and never passed business school 2. I found myself operating a golf course in Virginia, and was stumped by the mix of acid and a battery, and thought at that time it was probably best for me to go in a different direction. But I have a passion for golf, I have a passion for the game, the business, I have a passion for learning. And in 1993, I saw my first electronic tee sheet. And when I saw an electronic tee sheet, when I saw those names in blinking yellow and blue, I said, this is the future, right? Somewhere inside of me, I said, airlines work like this, hotels work like this, it's only a matter of time before golf works like this. And so I started evangelizing golf courses moving off of pencil and paper onto tee sheets in 1993. I grew up in Northern California. My dad ran a municipal golf course, De La Viega. My brother still runs it today. Ran the first tee when we were doing 300 rounds a day, right? And so I knew how to answer the phone, I knew how to check people in, I knew how to work a waiting list, I knew how to do all that stuff. And that helped me really work through the objections that golf course operators would have in 1993 on why they need to get on pencil and paper. or off pencil and paper and onto a T-sheet. So it's a long story. It went through, I've got relationships here with guys in the room that I've worked with before. It's had its ups and downs. I was the original licensee for Golf Now in California. I started Golf Now I started evangelizing that business in California in 2002. Ran it for 6 years until we sold it to Comcast. Spent 5 years at the Golf Channel helping them understand what they had in that business. And so I have probably called on more golf, I've called on a lot of golf courses. I spoke to a lot of GMs. I spoke to a lot of owners. I've talked about this business. To bring it back to a sales and marketing mentorship, my father was my best mentor because that's the person you spend the most time with. That's the person that you try to emulate. That's the person that you sit across from dinner at home, if you're lucky, across from them every night at dinner. And so I had a great chance to learn from him. He was one of those old school golf professionals who knew everything about the business, who operated his business, who fed his family, who created that environment. There's nothing more important than the environment that's created at the golf course. Right? And it's driven by the people in charge. And if that is a welcoming, open environment with respect and fun and learning and all those things, then you're going to have a great operation. So I hope to have a chance. I'm always willing to help other people learn more about the business, learn more about themselves, find their path through the golf industry. I've taken an atypical path, but yet I'm still as passionate about the game and about the business as anybody, and I'm trying to help people get better. So,
thank you for that. Now we'll turn the mic over to Mr. Scott Hine. And well, Scott and Robert have unique experiences in the fact that they're in private clubs today, but they both started in the public and or resort side. So, Scott, why don't you a little background about yourself?
Thank you, Robin. Have a nice call. So good morning, everybody. Again, Scott Hine, I'm the general manager of Oakmont Country Club in Glendale. And again, my background is kind of unique that I've had all sides of this business. I started in 97, 98 with Mr. Lopez out in Arizona. He let me sleep in his kitchen floor, and we started working out there together at a resort, and the public, daily fee, private club that's privately owned, to high-end daily fee, and now to high-end equity. So I've seen all sides, but what I keep telling people when they ask me, Scott, why is this different? Why is this than a different, where you were at before? It's more similar than it is different. We're still selling golf. We're still selling experiences. We're still selling stuff to, the golf products to, except I have a more captive audience now than I used to have when you could put it out. So I still think those things really carry over, and the principles of sales and marketing and the process of making sales is still the same, no matter where you're at. The other thing, going back to mentor, is I remember really my biggest mentor is coupled to my left here, Mr. Lohman. When I started working for Eric, I remember the first week or two we were working together, I ordered something and I said, are you sure we can sell that? And he looked at me and he goes, Scott, I can sell anything. And I was like, kind of, well, how? And that does sound like an Eric thing, it's true. But he always knew how to sell to people. He could figure out a way, he knew how to communicate, how to get it out there. And I still believe that. I think, if we have the right products and in the right place, and we're passionate about what we're selling, that's more important than anything, and we can sell it. And the real reason I think sales and marketing is so important, why I'm so passionate about it, I have no experience with it. I'm not classically trained in sales and marketing. I'm not even a really good sales and marketing guy. I'm just more of a leader, more of like an idea person, and then I find really good people that know what they're doing, and a lot of you are in this room that I've used over the years to help implement the programs, which I think is more important because they're way too technical, especially now with a lot of the stuff being digital and all online and social media, and I don't really understand it. I just know it's important, and I kind of jump into it and try to find ways to make it work. But the biggest reason sales and marketing for me is important is because it's the best. By being successful at that, you hit your budgets, and then you make your bonuses, and your owners are happy, and your bosses are happy, and you keep your job. So that's important to me, and I found it's, been very successful, doing that.
Great, why you got the mic in your hat. Tell us why the sale traditional memberships have changed over the year. We're going to do a little bit different because a lot of sales and marketing, it changes depending which type of club you're at. If you're at a private club, public resort, technology, so they're going to be more, sometimes it'll chime in and people add to it, but it's really by property or the type of property it is. So let me start with that. How membership sales have changed.
It's interesting. I think they've changed 180 degrees in the last 5 to 10 years. When I was a kid coming up, you didn't really sell a private club membership. You just were lucky to get in, and they were lined up around the building, and there was a waiting list. And you didn't even have salespeople for memberships. They came in, and somebody at the front desk would help them fill out the process, and everybody knew everybody, and everybody was fourth generation, whatever, had known their father. And now life is so transient, is what I see. People move a lot. People don't stay in the same place. People don't live where they grew up, so they don't have the kind of roots. And at a club like mine, where just to get into our club, you have to have 7 members sponsor you. So to have people know you that well, it's more difficult. And our club has really struggled with that transition. How do we find new people but still hold on to the past? And it's been an interesting transition and difficult for some. But we have to find ways to reach out to people now, because my club's interesting in the fact that you can't see it really from anywhere. People drive by our club within a mile of my club every day for 25 years and have no idea that Oklahoma Country Club's just down the hill off the 210 below the 2. If you drive on the 2, if you look really quickly for like 1 second, you can see like one hole. That's about all you can see from the freeway. So it's kind of hidden, it's quiet, and like I always tell our members, we have this beautiful place, but we put these giant walls up around us and nobody can see in, which is kind of anti to everything sales and marketing and sales related that I've ever heard. So we had to find ways to get people out there, right? So we've had to really engage our membership to say, it's your club, you need to keep selling it. We're going to help provide you all the tools, everything you can to make the process as simple as possible. So as a private club, we've become more of a facilitator and really trying to make it easy for our members to get new members through. So that's kind of a long story answer there.
Thank you. Yeah. And same thing, Eric, on the public resort side. What do you see the changes? And then staying on the mentorship theme, who helped you through that process to learn those changes and adapt?
That's a great question. The public resort side, I've been in it now. I've had a similar type position for about 15 years, and this is I believe the 4th property daily fee resort municipality, the high-end daily fee that I've managed. And I would say that I personally had changed my opinion and then have tried to instill that in my staff. And back in the day, back when I was at Cimarron or Black Gold, two very nice properties that in theory were going to be pretty special, and we opened up with some nice accolades, and then we kind of jumped into the difficulties, which is trying to gain allegiance and a following and a core audience. And being out at Cimarron, when I was hired there, I was working for OB Sports. I had spent my year in maintenance working for a gentleman named Tom Christie, who taught me a ton about agriculture and turf care and what these folks had to go through. And then I pivoted and went to work for a gentleman named Jeff Fogue, who was all about operations, and we opened up Trophy Lake up in the Seattle market. And I was only there for 6 months or so, but I got to witness OB Sports open up a property, and C.A. Roberts, who will be speaking to us later today, he just walked in. There he is, C.A. Roberts, everybody. C.A. Was up there in the Seattle market, Kirkland, with his team, and I got to see sort of firsthand sort of how they opened up a new property, and I was impressed by the collateral and the special events and the VIP treatment that we had. And again, we opened up a wonderful property, and about 2 weeks into it, we kind of realized we were going to struggle. And you kind of don't know that until you open up a property. And beautiful property again, but because of its location on the Puget Sound, it wasn't as simple to get people to drive over from Seattle or to take the boat shuttle, ferry. Sorry, thanks, Chris. Ferry. But I learned a lot from CA and his team in regards to just the quality and the panache that needed to happen. And then somehow CA calls me one day. I'm sitting in my house. I probably had my day off, like a Wednesday morning, and he calls me in the morning, wakes me up at like 8:30. I like to sleep in, I'm not going to lie. Not anymore, but back in the day. And CA says, you're from the desert, right? I said, yeah. He goes, do you want to go down there and be the director of sales and marketing of our new resort? And I thought to myself, well, that's neat. I had, like Scotty, at UCLA, I was international relations. I was on the golf team, social chair of my fraternity. I don't think I was really in the marketing side of the world, maybe the sales side of things at times. And CA, you would go back to the desert, and CA is a wonderful salesperson and a great communicator. And I think he sold me on this idea, and they were going to give me a raise to like $10 an hour, and it was like $1 more than what I was making, a little bit more than that. But it was like my first salary position, my first opportunity to be in management, and I said, sure, what help? Let's do it, right? And the first thing I did is I really went to the store and bought a Sales and Marketing for Dummies book. Because I went there to the store, there were so many books and so many different authors, I figured I might as well start at 101 and work my way up. But my mentor there, obviously CA was instrumental, but this gentleman named Chris Strauss, who some of you might know is a regional, he's actually now, I think, a senior vice president at Troon Golf, and at the time was the director of sales and marketing for our Vegas properties. And what I learned from Chris, among other things, is I've never seen a work ethic, I've never seen a passion, I've never seen a way he connects with his clients and his staff and how much he was invested. And so I learned that from him. And then I kind of backed into the marketing side of things, and still learning every single day. So.
Chris is great. I've spoken at a couple of conferences with him. He's fantastic. We're glad CA's giving you some more panache, because you're getting more and more panache every year, so that's good. Let's shift over to technology. Mike, I've known you a long time. Different ventures you've been in. With golf now and how that started. How'd you get in the online, and who mentored you to go that direction opposed to traditional golf? I know we talked about the business school too. But how'd you get that way, and how'd you stay with that, and who helped you along the way to have the success you had to sell Golf Now?
Lots of people, right? I think the thing that directed me to technology is, growing up in the 70s in Northern California in Santa Cruz. It was a bedroom community for IBM and Fairchild Semiconductor, so there were engineers who played golf. And my dad had a 286 computer and had a couple guys run a technology program for him so he could do his daily deposit to the city. He put in his rounds by category and put in his revenue out of the till, and you push a button and it'd do its computation and spit out this report that showed rounds and revenue by a day. And so that's what he used to take his deposit. He installed a Smith business system, point of sale system in 1979. So I was exposed to technology immediately, and like I said, when I had found myself after college, one thing I want to say about my dad, again, is I saw him mentor so many other PGA golf professionals that came through his operation as an assistant pro. So I saw firsthand the trajectory that these other young men and women were taking through the golf business in Northern California. So I was always, and so part of that was going to work in a sales and marketing capacity at Chardonnay Club, actually in 1989. And that's where I met the Japanese ownership at the time, who was very big in California in the late 80s. Their stock market had grown to a spot where they were investing in golf worldwide, and so I was that sales and marketing was reciprocated for me at that point. But then again, I saw that point of sale and that electronic tee sheet, and that's where I went. Started with Par Golf Systems, Grant Spade, past president of the USGA, famous lawyer from Northern California. His sales and marketing advice to me, as an Arizona State Sun Devil graduate, was write 500 words a day. Learn to be a better communicator by writing. And you mentioned earlier about email. Sometimes that's the only way a salesperson can really try to get through to a golf professional or an owner who's got a very limited amount of time, who returning calls, those calls tend to be, my gloss slots on the list, I'm going to knock that down a couple notches because I've got other priorities to deal with. And so you've got to try to get your, got to try to be able to develop a thought. And so Grant's advice to me to write 500 words a day, I actually still do it. I subscribe to a product called Grammarly. Has anyone ever heard of Grammarly? Do you like it? Yeah, it's really good, right? And that product helps you with punctuation and syntax, and it's good because if you can't communicate well in writing, then that's a tough deal. The technology is everywhere now on the tea time side. I've always said that from a public daily fee resort standpoint, gosh, there is no more valuable asset than that asset at tea time inventory. It's the only asset that expires every 10 minutes, and it was one when I was coming up through the PGA program. It was one of the areas that nobody talked about. It was about instruction, it's about merchandising, it's about Pima cotton versus other types of cotton, it's about thread count, right? It was about markdowns and discounts. It was not about yield management, it was not about revenue management, it was not about occupancy percentages. And so I think there's just a tremendous opportunity to mentor other people in this business through the tee sheet, right? Through the tee sheet, and there is no more important process at a public daily fee or resort property than being able to properly understand how you build your rates, how you fill your tee sheet, what you can discount to for how you work your cardholder program, right? How does that interact with your group play? How low can you go to drive to get a group booking versus the ancillary spend that's going to come through food and beverage or merchandise sales? I don't know if anybody out there on the public resort side who feels that they've got to really have had a leg up and really understand that business, that side of the business very well. I think that's a huge opportunity. And with what I'm doing right now, we haven't talked about what I'm doing, right? You've given me the chance. It's rounds and revenue benchmarking, just like the STAR report in the golf industry, right? And there is a great way to cultivate apprentices, first assistants, head golf professionals in your organization by helping them understand that business. And in the course of that, we can talk about Golf Now and third parties and all that kind of stuff and their impact. So.
Okay, well, let's come back to Golf Now in just a second. So stay on the public side then, and how things have changed, because that's where the tee sheets and Golf Now's started and still is today. Where have you seen it change, not only on the technology side, Eric, but what have you seen just in the sales and marketing side in the last 10, 15 years? And then where do you see it going in the next 10, 15 years?
Great question. I would say that the biggest change is when I first started, where I was more charged with the success and failure of a property through sales and marketing, that the emphasis was probably more so on the sales side. And I would, I used to say out loud, like, we would take the shotgun approach, I'd opened 2 or 3 properties in a row, and then I was assigned, I was hired by the Irvine Company to come on board and help them kind of resurrect and rebrand Oak Creek Golf Club and help them a little bit with their sales and marketing on their golf group side. And I used to openly say the shotgun approach. I thought, like, the more we could do, the more harder we work, the more people we could reach. Eventually, a few of those folks would like us and come. And I certainly took that approach on at Cimarron and at Black Gold. And then
we had other names for it. Right?
Yeah, sorry. Which isn't the easiest approach to have, and it meant there was a lot of different promotions and marketing initiatives, and it was difficult for a lot of people to manage, and we had to have reports that sort of outline these things just so that people could keep up. And then I think we transitioned a little bit into, or at least I have, more so into allegiance and retention of customers. Once you get this core group of people to show up, maybe, and it all depended on where you were. It could be 35,000 rounds at a high-end daily fee or a resort. It could be 80,000 rounds if you're at a lower price point. kind of turn and burn municipality or one of those facilities that can handle that volume. But after you got to that point, you had to retain these folks. And that's kind of when the market started to dip, and there was a few more golf courses were introduced to the marketplace, and it just seemed like it got more competitive, and it should have. I mean, less play, more volume, supply versus demand. It's very basic economics. And the one way for us to go out and either to hold our line or to continue to grow our business was to get some play from our competitive set. So we had to, certainly anybody who walked through the turnstile, we had to make sure they left in a way that they felt like they received value for their money, their time was well spent. So we spent a lot of time, and we continue to do so to make sure that that happens. And then I would say with the advent of social media, and then the likes of what Mike Losselot and some of his peers in his industry have done is they've allowed us to analyze information to the point that we can make really good calculated decisions. Again, when you're going from the shotgun approach where every decision is going to happen to a calculated approach where maybe you determine there's a certain segment or category or player type that you particularly like because you've learned that this one group is producing the most, and you just haven't really given them the most attention. And then you got to figure out, well, how the hell do I get in touch with them? And that's where social media and SEO and all these great acronyms that I can never keep up with come into play. And to echo what Scott said is, as you transition from these different philosophies, you start to figure out that there are people in the marketplace like a Mike Losselot, not to mention some marketing support I get from my brother, but there are people that can help you in this regard, and we're not inherently born with this ability, so you have to sometimes pivot and learn. And I would say today it's retention is super important, and then it's really finitely trying to attract the right customer, and given that we don't have that much time in a day to do it, to make sure that the amount of time we give is proportional to the amount of revenue we could potentially have. And I think that's our biggest initiative in the next couple of years. And then down the road, you ask, what's the horizon look like? I mean, we can get into it. I'm sure we can all talk about it. But I definitely think in our marketplace, in the resort world, to us, it's more about experience. It's less about tradition. It's more about the music, the food, the pace, how cool the cart is. What's that? Feeling welcomed, obviously. Certainly welcomed and appreciated. But I definitely believe that in our case, we're going to go more and more less traditional and more experiential. And then we're going to utilize more and more technology and social media to certainly push that messaging, because that's where social media plays such a great, important role. I mean, I can tell you we're cool and we're fun and we're unique and we're special, but if I just do an ad in a magazine, it's not live, it's not moving, it has no emotion. I mean, you can get there, but you can't really. So the video, the Snapchats, the Instagrams, however you dictate or present that is going to really make or break us, and that's kind of where our focus will be, I think.
All right, on the retention line, Scott. So once you sell your members, and you're trying to do retention, what sales, from keeping on the sales and marketing theme, what sales and marketing things are you doing currently now? What have you tried maybe and didn't work, and where are your focus moving forward for sales and marketing for once you get the members in retention?
Yeah, I think every meeting we have, there's two things. It's sales and then it's retention. And when retention with members is really about satisfaction, and it's about trying to keep them happy. And I think Eric's word that he just uses, what our key word is at Oakma, which is experiential. We're not trying to sell based on price. We're not trying, we put out an event, the price is very small on the bottom because honestly, it doesn't matter, like they can afford it, right? So the key for us is to make things, and this is my word, everything we do is about fun. We're in the fun business. I call it the circle of fun, and trying to make things so much fun and having such a good time that they actually do not care what it costs and will come back and do it over and over, and they'll keep telling their friends, right? And it's hard to explain how you get there, but what I like to do is I always try to turn my staff, and we always talk about being the consumer, and saying, okay, here's the event, we got this, we got that, it starts at this time, we got this is the food we're going to have, all the other stuff, whatever we're going to do. And then I look at it and go, would you buy that? Number one, I may not, if I am the target demographic, and I don't think it's like something that would make me want to buy it, then we're not doing it. And if I don't think it's way better than anything anybody else has done, then we're not doing it. And if we don't understand, because sometimes I'm not always the target demographic, then we want to go ask some people before we put it out, hey, do you think this is like something you want to do? And if their eyes light up, they're like, yeah, that'd be awesome. And then, okay, then we can run with it. So I think taking some time to understand and look at it from the other side, a lot of times we look at it as just our goals, like we got to hit this number with this and that. That's great, but how do we get there? And then how do we make it so much fun that when they walk out of the event, they walk over to you and say, Scott, when's the next one? When are we doing something like this again? And I think at a private clubs for us, there's a big shift from pure golf. Golf used to be by far the #1 driver to private clubs. And I'm a golf guy and I love golf, but I believe it's probably right in the middle now. It's probably about half the people come for golf. The other people come for the experience. They come for the things they can't get anywhere else. And that has much more to do with non-golf. So we've really shifted our focus trying to use the facility for different things. And one of them, which is now we have a bocce league we have 40 teams. We have 280 people on Friday evenings playing bocce in the 9th fairway on 20-some courts. Few people don't like it because they can't play the 9th hole, but 280 people absolutely love it every Friday night, and they drink about $4,000 or $5,000 worth of booze every night. So, it's kind of like you create these events, you create this feeling, and then all of a sudden the numbers just come rolling in. And I think if you start on that side, you'll end where you want to be on the other, rather than trying to just figure out a way to make money.
Great advice, looking through their eyes and what they're thinking and feeling, opposed to just what we think they're looking and feeling at. Mike, shifting back over to technology and third-party bookings, you've seen a change in recent years. I guess, mentor us where you think the next change is coming in third-party bookings.
Yeah. What I've learned is that I believe third-party bookings have plateaued. I have seen aggregated data for just under 300 golf courses in Arizona, California, and Nevada. And I've seen that data over the last 3 years, and I've seen the slice that third-party bookings occupy actually shrink. Okay, so in general, if you look at the pie chart of rounds of golf at a golf course, public daily free resort, and you look at the source of the booking, the largest source still is the golf shop, what I would call the golf shop, over the phone walk-in, and that of course encompasses, all your groups, all your walk-up. That kind of makes sense. But then if you look at then it goes into kind of two other major buckets. It goes into the third-party booking, which is really Golf Now, POF.com, and regionally a couple of other players potentially. That, as a whole, is about 16%. Okay. The next biggest piece of the pie, about equal amount, is the golf course's own website. So those direct bookings are about 15% at the golf course, anywhere from 4 up to 20, 25, 30%, depending on the focus of the golf course. But what I've seen is that third party shrink by about 10% over the last 3 years. Okay, and I've seen that direct booking by golf course through the golf course's website or their mobile app increase by 25 to 30%. So what I attribute that to is the golf owner, the golf operator, the golf professional becoming much more in tune to that channel of business. And so what they're doing, like I tell people every day, that third-party golfer, you see them coming 2 days away, right? You know where they're going to be on your tee sheet, there they are, right? You know their name, there they are. All you have to do is figure out a way to get something right in their hand to turn them into a direct booker. And so much of sales and marketing comes down to boring tactics, right, that just get executed relentlessly and flawlessly. And if it's as simple as a card that you hand to a golfer as they walk in and say, hey, do you know we've got the best prices on our website? You can avoid a booking fee if you come through our website. And if you book this week, we're going to register in you a raffle to do something. And if you measure that, okay, create some objectives and some goals, report on it, incentivize people to do it, you'll be amazed with the results. And so I think that third party has reached its peak. I think direct bookings are going to continue to grow, and it's through the effort and the awareness of the golf operator that that's happening.
Right. So you said so it's 16% golf now, traditional golf course, 16% on their own website.
Yeah.
And so the question to the audience, I guess, would be then, does everyone who works at a resort or public course, do they know what percentage is golf now and what percentage is their own booking website? If not, I guess a mentor I would say is make sure you know that, because that's an important stats and facts, particularly if it's going up or down. So thanks for that, Mike. Good information. And I love the fact about handing out somebody about that. You gotta realize Mike 15 years ago was telling me I gotta go all in golf now and do all these things, and now he's telling me how we gotta hand out
it was
to not go in golf now. So I appreciate that, Mike.
We can talk about that too, because I mean, really, Golf Now started, the whole concept behind the business was to actually help the golf course operator do a better job at growing a database, right? Because you think back to when we started, those tee sheet providers, those technology providers were really working on digitizing their tee sheet. They really weren't working on anything from a consumer-facing standpoint. What we brought was the ability to show a tee time, and if you look at the way they show a tee time online, set pricing up so that it can change at the tee time level, and passively through that action of offering tee times on a golf course website, letting a round of golf be booked, building an email database, help the golf course build the database, right? So I mean, we had the best intentions, and I could talk for a lot longer on where it went awry. We'll save that for another conversation.
All right, great. Well, thank you for that. Let's shift over to the private side here. Mr. Shelton, welcome back. Is sales and marketing, it's been solved? The problem's been eradicated? Okay, perfect. Well, why don't we talk to both Scott and Robin. Robin, why don't you start? How important is sales and marketing at your clubs to sell memberships, and how much time do you actually spend? What advice would you give to people in the audience? How much time to put towards marketing versus operations, other things like that?
Oh, I mean, well, as a GM, right, you have to wear multiple hats at all times, and you run back and forth. But from a sales and marketing side of it, I mean, I think that's where the bulk of your strategy has to be. I mean, if you think about it, let's say most private clubs, 50% of your revenue alone is coming from dues. So that's the biggest revenue source. It's the most profitable revenue source. So why are you not spending all of your time there? And I think we, as golf pros and as an industry, I think we missed the boat. Not to get on a soapbox, but for our apprentices, and go through level 1, 2, and 3, we don't spend any time talking about sales. We don't spend any time talking about marketing, but yet 50% of my revenue is coming from dues, and I have to figure out how to get more members and keep the ones I have longer. So sales and marketing has to be where your mind is at all times, because that's the biggest revenue driver and what has the biggest impact on your club's financials and the ability to do more down the road. So sales and marketing, that you have to have that hat, you have to wear it all the time, and you got to err on the side of the sales and marketing strategy.
We talk sales and marketing between public, private. To me, it doesn't matter. We talk about this at Oakmont. I have 147 employees on my sales and marketing team. That's every single person there. So everyone's job is to sell things. My superintendent every day puts out a product that should be selling memberships. And if it isn't selling memberships, there's a reason for it. So we're always working towards a common goal, which is sales and retention, and they kind of go hand in hand with a lot of it, especially at a private club. So they're all putting out the best they can. And then the second part of that sales team is that everyone has to be involved in the sales process. So when we come up with ideas, when we have events, when we have sales things we're trying to put out, it's really important that you go to your entire staff and educate them on what we're doing and why we're doing it, so they can help promote it. Because I kind of got tired of people saying, well, it's been in the calendar for 3 months, it's been sent out in 9 e-blasts. But the most powerful thing is when you have that sitting right there, and the person behind the counter in the golf shop can go up to them and say, hey, are you signed up for this? This is what's going on. But we don't usually take the time to educate the golf shop on what food and beverage is maybe doing, and food and beverage educate the golf shop on what they're doing. But if we have that synergy and we're all working together, it's amazing how many people you can fill up and how many people you can grab that. At private clubs, you find the people that they play golf 250 times a year, but they've never had anything but free peanuts and goldfish. So how do we get them to go to the food side? How do we get the people that eat 4 nights a week to play more golf? and that's where we can work together and kind of solve some sales problems together, and it's really on a one-on-one kind of, guerrilla warfare.
And then Robin's comment about sales and marketing, how much time to spend on the PG. I just met Scott McHugh for the first time. Scott, you just moved to our section, correct? He was at our table. We were talking earlier this morning. And Scott is a membership director at a private club in San Diego, and he's a PGA member. So I think we're going to see more and more of that. And Scott, just in a couple words, how did you get involved from operations out of the PGA to sales and marketing side?
Well,
Sorry, I'm pulling a little audible here, but I thought it was important. It's unique experience.
thanks. Yeah, I was always in golf operations, and luckily a couple of my friends were members of the club and suggested I come and look at maybe a sales and marketing role, and always loved golf, and like Susan said, sorry about that. I kept getting out of golf and I got back into golf, and I love it, and I'm a people person. I just fell into sales, and it's worked out really well. And learning the sales and marketing aspect of it has been huge for my success, and I'm so happy to be here and learning more from you guys on what's going on.
All right, well, welcome to our section as well.
Thank you very much.
Greg, do you see, I guess Robin's got the microphone, do you see more of that opportunity where you have PGA members becoming sales directors at a private club, or even a tournament sales director? I know we have that at our property as well. A lot of PGA members sell tournaments. That's all they do is sell. Do you see that coming down the road?
I would tell you, as a GM, I try, and as a regional manager, I try every chance I get to hire PGA golf professionals, because I think all things being equal, people want to buy from people who understand their product. I think people want to buy from people who are in the same mindset as them. So I will tell you, at Seacliff, we hired a PGA golf professional who was one of our assistant golf pros, and our membership sales are up 65% over prior year just from this gentleman, Rich Ortega, is a PGA member, and he is killing it and crushing it every single day. And I think partly just because, hey, he can talk the talk of what people want to hear. He talks about when somebody wants to know what kind of grass is on the golf course, or he can actually speak intelligently to it. So I think absolutely, and if we as PGA golf professionals are smart, we would dig deeper and harder into sales and marketing, because that's where all of our businesses are based out of, and there's nobody better to sell it than people who understand the game and are in the same mindset of our consumer.
And Eric, on the public resort side?
Yeah, we've had the opportunity here to transition over a new team than the team that we inherited here 5 years ago, and one of my initiatives was hopefully we'd find some apprentices or PGA professionals that we could put into a particular role, like a salesperson. And we have a couple of our apprentices in the back of the room, although they'll soon be members. We're hoping for that to happen, right, folks? We're going to do that. But I was very fortunate to find two apprentices that one in one regard was really savvy with the social media and marketing, and assist us with sales, and Shaq Kazarian. And then we were very fortunate to have a golf professional, somebody who is not a member, but somebody who's worked in the profession many years, in Blake Froling. And to have those folks work for me that have that experience, I think is awesome, and makes it super simple for us, because we do talk golf, and this is primarily a golf facility. So for us to be able to find two people who, by the way, are just as good at that role in marketing or in sales as they are their understanding of golf, makes them exponentially valuable to me. More so than if we'd hired somebody off the street and then try to teach them golf, because unless you're kind of born in it or lived it for a while, you can't really fake what we do or what we know. You could try, and there's plenty of people out there who do that, but it's more authentic when you can actually come from the source.
Staying on the mentorship theme too, we talked about books in our first panel. Let's just, each one of you, what's your best sales and marketing book that you recommend for everyone to read from a mentorship or learning standpoint?
I've read a bunch of the Coveys and the good business versus bad business, and a lot of I think there's some stories out there you could read about Starbucks and the Ritz-Carltons and those types of places. And I think they're all valuable. I think they're about as valuable, though, as picking up the phone, like we talked about, and trying to grab a cup of coffee with somebody who you already know has been successful. I mean, you could read a book about sales and marketing and being proper, or just go spend 30 minutes with Susan Roll, and you would realize that if you could just emulate Susan Roll, you could save the effort of reading a book. Spend 15, 20 minutes with you, and you'd get the passion and the energy and the excitement. And if you can't realize that you have to be prioritize correctly and be disciplined and organized, here's Sean talk. I mean, this is what these books say. So, but I will say one thing, and I didn't get a chance to give him recognition, but when I was at college and right before I got to work for Pat at Monterey, I did spend a couple of years working for Jim Flick. And I would tell you to read his book. I don't know if you're going to get any sales and marketing out of his book, but I think what you'll get, what resonated for me in the time I spent with him at Pebble Beach and at Cypher, the Pebble Beach courses, was how much this man who taught golf cared about his students, his staff, the staff at the club, the person serving him coffee. He cared about the superintendent. He cared about everybody who he interacted with. And it didn't matter if you were Laird Small, who's a top 10 instructor in the world, Eric Lohman, who was cleaning clubs and setting up the pyramids, or the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. He treated us exactly the same. I mean, he spoke to us the same way. He looked us all in the eye at the same time. He had us sit down with those people just so that we could interact and get the understanding that we were all equal. So I would say read his book. He's a great instructor, and for the teachers in the room, I'm sure they can appreciate that. But just to, if you could ever get the feeling of what that man possessed, it's definitely in line with some of the best that ever happened.
Mike? I know Mike just looked up 10 best sales and marketing books online.
It's been a long time. How about a 20-minute TED Talk? Simon Sinek. Who's seen it? The Golden Circle.
I was going to say with the why and all that, I think that's really important. When you talk about the great people that sell something great, it's because they're really passionate about it, they believe in it. And I think the other thing that I've got a few new properties, and the biggest thing I tell them is the first thing before we can be really successful selling is we have to be really good at what we do. Right? If we're really good at it, we're really passionate about it, then it's really easy to sell. But you got to take care of yourselves first. We got to make sure our products are good, our staff's excited, they're motivated, they're all buying in, and they really feel that they have some skin in the game. And then kind of the sales, they all seem to come after that. So that's my thought.
All right, that's a loaded question going last, but I'm going to try to give 3 answers. The first books that I would say are one, Sitting at the Table by Danny Meyer. The second book is The Zappos Story by Tony Hsu. So that's the first question. The second question, or the second part of my answer, Pat Riley says, if you're going to be an effective leader, you got to be obsessed in some way. So I think you really have to be obsessed. And one of the ways that I think I'm obsessed is that when I'm driving home, I'm listening to the TED Talks as I drive home. So I'll just, before I get in the car, I'll Google it and find a TED Talk, find something to listen to. So use your car drives well and TED Talk them, or get all the stuff you can get. And then the third thing I would say is, hey, really just understand what your belief is on sales and marketing is. I believe sales is not selling something, it's solving a person's problem, need, or want. And to Scott's point, if you love what you do and you're passionate about something, that's not really a sale, it's just helping somebody. So I would say, just know what your definition of what sales truly is, because I don't believe it's the car salesman, on the used car lot coming out to you and trying to talk you into a minivan. But it's really just solving people's problem, needs, or wants.
Great, thank you for that. And I just wanted you to go last. It's perfect because Robin reads a lot of books. Next, we're going to talk golf. I know it's not the business that we're all in, but they've been hugely successful at sales and marketing, getting people to properties. They're doing $20 to $30 million per facility. It's pretty amazing. And just on the panel, why don't we start with Mr. Lohman? Why do you think they were successful, and what are they doing differently, and what can we learn from them as almost mentors is what to do in our golf business traditionally?
I've only visited the one in Las Vegas, and I believe that to be the granddaddy of them all. And I guess if you're going to visit one, that'd be the one to go to. But from my experience, I was a little bit amazed, I would say. It's not like the concept at Topgolf is new to anyone. I mean, the bowling alley concept of, some decent food, some music, some camaraderie, and this bowling is essentially what Topgolf is. They just, instead of it, they just build the world's largest, greatest bowling alley, and they happen to focus on making it the best bar, the best restaurant, the loudest music, fairly, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this, but let's just say the staff there that works there is pleasant and good on the eye, and it just seems like they've created a social scene. And I don't know if it's not a marketing, they've not marketed any better or worse than the rest of us. They've just created this really cool bar restaurant that's large in scale and scope. It's unique. And if you kind of like golf, or if you like golf, you'll go for sure. If you kind of know what golf is, you kind of like golf, you'll try it out. Or if you just have no clue what golf means to us, you'll go and try it out just for the sake that you're there and it's something to do. But what's amazing to me is the scope, how big it is, how loud it is, how aggressive it is, and they've made a very big financial play, and they've had a huge return on investment. And for those of us who are in the room who manage these resorts, we're more likely to be able to mix or match what their experience, I think, because we can play the music a little louder, we can be a little bit more relaxed, we can kind of push the needle when it comes to the fun stuff. I mean, we talk about that experience, whatever that is, almost weekly in our meetings, so they certainly have opened our eyes in our industry, I think, to that, which is good. I mean, for them, we're pivoting now as an industry, I think some of us, into experience and retention, and maybe less so much about growing the game and trying to introduce new people, because if this place was Topgolf, they would come. We wouldn't have to do anything. They would just show up. So that's what we're trying to do, trying to get the message out. So.
Since this seminar is about mentoring, who are some of the great sales and marketing mentors or people that you watch? I'll give an example. I'm on Susan Roll's database for email, and every time I see some great promotion or outside the box idea that they create, I send it to the team and say, how come we didn't think of this? So I think that's really important I think Robin said earlier when he said the word borrowing or stealing somebody else's ideas. So why don't we go with some maybe people who you keep an eye on, who you're in their database, you watch, and so the audience could grab some of those ideas to sign up for their emails as well.
I didn't even hear your question. I was still in Topgolf mindset. Yeah. So, but I think the reason that what we learned from Topgolf is telling a story. They're not selling, 72 driving range stalls, brand new range balls, and new golf carts. Right, there's a story that goes with it. I think we as an industry try too hard to be like par 72 golf course championship, 86 bunkers and new carts. I don't think anybody's ever played a golf course because of the new carts or the old carts. But I think they tell a story. What we have to do as marketers is to tell stories more. But I think your second question was, who are other mentors outside of the industry? I learned something at one of the PGA seminars way back in the day, and it was a gentleman, Mark Avery. Had lunch with him, and he taught me about the road method. And I said, what on earth is the road method? And he says, hey, it's rip off and duplicate. And I rip off and duplicate that with everybody. So I'm looking at, hey, what are the hotels doing? What are restaurants doing? Very similar. Very very few ideas come from. I don't think I've ever had an original idea myself, but a lot of the good ideas come from outside of the industry. And if you look at, just because we're here, if you look at Monarch Beach. The hotels, webpage and all their promotions, right? It never talks about how many pools there are, how many hotel rooms, but it's always pictures of people smiling or families doing something or some sort of activity, something that emotionally gets you connected. So for me, it's just every single place that you go that has some bit of hospitality, what can you rip off and duplicate and perhaps even make it better?
Yeah, I think the key to it is keep your eyes open, keep your, look around, look outside of our business, especially in my world at a private club. They think they have an expectation of what you get at a private club, and I love to just completely blow that up and spin it around and give them something they never believed that could happen at a private club. Whether it's turning your banquet room into some cool, crazy lounge thing or something where they've just never seen that before because they've been in that room 4 million times and it's never looked like that. how do you get them to look at the product that they see every day differently? And it's hard, but it's fun. And so, again, I spend a lot of time, not a lot of time, I steal from every one of you, and I'm probably on like almost everybody's email list. I get 800 of those monthly magazines, get the one from Todd and Phil and all those guys send them over every month. And if there's a good one in there, we'll steal it. And same thing like Robin said, just know a good idea when you see it, and then when you do it, make it a little bit better.
On Topgolf, I'm interested in where they're going, and I look at their acquisition of Shot Tracer, and I look at their content deal with the PGA Tour, and I look at that in the context of what's happening with negotiating the rights now for the broadcast and distribution of the PGA Tour product that's going to renew through, that's up for renewal here in the next 2 or 3 years. So I've been to Topgolf several times. It's just like it's a cool experience, and it's not threatening. It's inviting. It's fun, and that makes sense. But I'm interested in kind of where all that's going. I don't know, but I'm curious. I spend a lot of time doing what I call market research, going to golf courses' websites, subscribing to their email database, seeing the offers that come through, actually trying to connect the dots of what the offer is and what's the call to action and what happens when you arrive at that landing page, and you'd be shocked on how quickly that breaks down. I spend a lot of time speaking to golf course operators about their monthly performance, right? Rounds are up, revenue's down, right? Average rate is this. What's your RevPAR? Explaining RevPAR, explaining capacity calculation, what's around a golf. And when I try to find something in the course of that I find interesting, like Kathy Entz, I was telling Tom earlier today, PGA members, you get a newsletter every month from the PGA of America. A couple of months ago, or maybe it's a weekly letter, a couple months ago, there was a video link for Kathy Entz. Who's heard of Kathy? Who's seen her video embedded in your email about revenue management? It's 5 different 20-minute segments that I recommend every public facility operator watch, because it's just the lifeblood of your business, and she would be someone from Cornell Hospitality School. I mean, golf is tracking against hospitality. You said it, Robin. And the asset managers in the hospitality business have a certain level of expectation that come from their revenue management discipline within that industry. If the golf professional could have that same kind of stature with an owner that a revenue manager does, and speak that same language that a revenue manager in hospitality does, that golf professional's credibility gets elevated, right? And they have a broader horizon on which they can participate and grow in the golf industry.
Great. Well, with that, we got about 10 minutes left. Let's start with some questions from the audience. We've got the speaker box here in the center. Who would just raise your hand? Any sales and marketing?
I'll start. This question is for Robin and Scott. What are some of the keys to the success in your career transitioning from golf operations to private general manager?
I think it's the need and the want to learn more and to do more. I just enjoy the business, and I wanted to know more and more about it. And then as I got further along, and I worked with Eric for several years and learned quite a bit. And then I thought, this is something we can do. We should be doing. This is really where I think the golf industry should be going. Is people in golf should be leading golf. So I think it's just you get into golf for golf, but then I fell in love with sales and marketing. Then I fell in love with agronomy. I even call myself a food and beverage expert now, and I've been at some really big properties that have done really big food and beverage, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, just don't be afraid of it. Just get into it. I've had great people to work with that have been inviting to teach me, whether it's the superintendents I worked with, or food and beverage directors, or chefs, to teach me the ins and outs of their business. But really, the key, what I found was once you start getting all these other businesses, they're all the same. It's just different widgets. So everybody's trying to make money. We're trying to, be efficient, trying to get great product, trying to bring people back. It's really the same thing we do in golf. So don't be afraid of it.
Kind of the same thing, but said a little differently, is I think it's just how I'm wired. It's how my DNA is that says I want to be a leader and I want to have more influence and I want to have more involvement in the strategy and grow people. So for me, it was just wanting to have more influence, wanting to have more leadership and being more involved in the strategy of everything. And that's just how I'm wired.
Okay. Other questions? No other questions?
I got one.
Okay.
Everybody here has different metrics for what you would base a successful golf operation upon. My question to you gentlemen is, what are your metrics that you base a successful operation upon? Thank you.
In our case, certainly the bottom line, like EBITDA is without EBITDA or without making a profit at your facility, based on the budgetary goals that either your management company or your owners or asset managers have set for you, I don't think we could survive without that type of metric. One of the things that we've gotten into, and more social media based probably, is reputation. We care a lot about what people think about us or why they think that. We all know the value of like a questionnaire or an evaluation or some feedback that you might get from somebody walking through the halls. But when you get a social media review and it speaks really well of something that you've been trying to make better, it makes you feel better, when it recognizes somebody who's done a great job, it really allows you to then step forward and recognize those folks in an appropriate manner. And on the flip side, we're not perfect, and there's no place I've ever been where we didn't make a mistake daily or the operation had shortfalls in certain areas. And by reading that information, which at times can be spiteful and random at best, at least there's an undertone in there that if you could pull from it, there's some information in that you could potentially take and make better. So in our case, I would say that's the two, EBITDA and then our social media reputation.
I think for us, member satisfaction, like our surveys we do, are really important, because you can look at numbers and things change. I mean, prices go up, and that might have a false influence on things. But if you're getting that satisfaction back from your members saying, we're really happy here, it doesn't matter what you charge, they're gonna pay it. But for us, what I try to do is break everything down as far as I can, and then we can build off of there. So every single thing we do, whether it's a sale, whether it's every category in the golf shop, whether it's every event we do, whether it's membership sales, everything has a goal and a target before we start, and then we measure them along the way, and then we'll see kind of how we're doing. So the farther you can break those metrics down, whether it's an individual event, today's event is going to be $50 a person, it's going to be this, here's our costs, how do we do, and then then look back on it and see if we're successful, because sometimes the big picture doesn't tell the whole story, but we want to get it down as far as we can, and then I think that allows all of your staff to have more ownership, because it's going to be like their event or this part of their event, and they can really take pride in it.
I would say for me, Eric talked about, hey, the big picture of the club. So for me, I just look at, hey, top right, bottom right on the financial statement. So, hey, what's the revenue, what's the EBITDA? I don't really care what happens in the middle, as long as, hey, we get the revenue, we get the bottom line number. But then I look at it and I break it down in between departments. So, for instance, from the food and beverage standpoint, we measure and have a set track and set a goal for ticket times, for how long does it take for the food to come out, and then how many orders that go out stay out. So those are kind of our two ones from a membership sales. It's how many prospects and what's our closing rate. From private events, it's, hey, what's our closing rate, what's our total bookings, and how many appointments are we seeing. For golf operations, it's, hey, what's our percent increase over prior year, and what's our pace of play. So what do we think are the two most important by department, to relentlessly focus on those, talk about those all the time, and that those will, should in theory, drive the top right, bottom right on our financial statements.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, with that, we'll wrap it up. Before the end, I want to first thank Mr. Lohman. I think he deserves a round of applause. When Eric does something, he does a great job setting this whole thing up. So, sales and marketing, everybody here too. So, with that, I'd like to thank the panel. Great job, gentlemen, and thank you very much for your time. Lunch will be served
We're
now?
breakfast was okay.
Yeah.
Lunch is ready.
Lunch is ready. Lunch is ready now. So thank you very much. We'll talk soon.